Hello, it's Donna. I'm back. I'm Donna Balzer, and I am the author of the 3-year Gardener's Gratitude Journal. And I think you all know that if you've been following along. But just in case you don't, my journal is jam-packed with facts and figures. So if your journal is not full yet, you better get writing. So thanks for joining me again this week. If you're new to Facebook Live, you just go to the bottom where it says write a comment. You fill in your comment. I sit back, I wait for that comment, and when I see it, I answer it. There is a little bit of time delay. We figured that out in the last couple of weeks. So, hey, we've already got Kent Rathwell on. Thanks, Kent. Thanks for joining us. We really love to have you here on the show. Make sure to ask your question if you've got a gardening question. If you don't, well, that's okay. Just listen along. So, I wanted to welcome everyone. I wanted to say I had a fabulous talk yesterday. I had a talk at the Parksville group and talked about vegetables, and I got to speak with Linda Chalker-Scott. She was speaking just before me, so if you know her, you know that's pretty exciting. So this week I know we already have questions about people how to save your peas. We already have compost questions, and what Linda Chalker-Scott told me, new information about wood mulch, so stay tuned and I'll be bringing you that. And Natalie's back. Hi Natalie, great to see you again. And Elizabeth, yay, there we go. Really excited. So that's all of what we're going to get to today if we have time. But Ian's already sent in a question. Hey, what birdseed do you recommend to attract birds in my garden? Ian, I know your garden is pretty small, but you should be trying to have naturally occurring things first. Birdseed is your second choice. Of course, you want to buy birdseed because that'll just stretch it out a bit. But right now in your garden, you should have things that have gone to flower or seed, and any late berries they'll be after, depending on the type of bird. So I will try to answer that question, and we'll answer that as we go along. I know all of the questions, I encourage the other people to answer each other. So if Kent, for instance, has an answer to your question, he can put that in, and if Natalie has an answer, she can put that in as well. Because I think I'm going to start with Wayne's question. He sent that in ahead of time. Wayne's question was when to save, and hopefully the birds won't get your peas. Okay. Hi, Ken. Hi, Ian. I see you're on the phone right now. Anyway, right now, Wayne's question, and we'll just put that ahead of Ian's. Wayne's question was when or how to save your peas. Now, when you can't save your peas for next year planting, if you don't actually have open pollinated peas, because it's the open pollinated peas, the ones that you've been growing from old stock, or it said right in the catalog that it was open pollinated. So if you've got those peas, those are perfect and you want to save them. So you probably will be picking them when they're still green, or maybe yours have already dried out on the stalks. You just have to see. If they're still green, like these couple that I just ran out and picked, just put them in an open pie tray or keep them in a warm area. And when they're completely dry, not earlier, when they're completely dry, I've got some over here. When they're completely dry, they're going to look like, whoa, like this. And then you keep them even drier by putting them in a sealed container, like a margarine container, something like that. So Wayne's trying to save his pea seeds. They're pretty easy to do. So if you're saving seeds, let me know what you're saving. I'm saving a lot of seeds. I always do that. But Wayne was particularly interested in the, and Kent said hi. So Ken, I'm going to ask you to help us out with the types of bird seeds people should be feeding right now, because most of our people that we've got are sort of right across the prairies, but also on Vancouver Island. So tell me if you can help us out with the types of bird seeds that are directly going to help the birds in different areas. So people can do things like whole seeds, like whole sunflower seeds, or actually shelled sunflower seeds. So if you can help us out with the types of bird seeds to feed now, that would be amazing. Really like that. So there we go. So we've answered Wayne's question. And I also brought in, okay, yesterday I gave a talk. I think I mentioned that. I gave a talk in, this isn't the cauliflower that I gave away, but I had a beautiful cauliflower yesterday that I gave away at the talk in Parksville. And it was an orange cauliflower, Flame Star. And I gave it away. Sorry about that. There were real fisticuffs over that. More than one person said that they had the name, their number was drawn, so they wanted the cauliflower. So that was the orange flame star. This is just a white one called Goodman. This is one that I seeded in my greenhouse. And if you've been watching for a while, you know that that I have a really big greenhouse. And the greenhouse that I have is put together by BC Greenhouse. So that's what I'm recommending. That cauliflower I planted on June 22nd. I started it indoors, well, indoors in my greenhouse, and then I transplanted it in late August. So it was a fairly new cauliflower, but it's already got pretty big cauliflowers on it. So I'm very excited about that. Let's see, Ian, we have lots of doves coming, Kent. We need more little birds. Oh, great. Well, that's good, Ian. I guess we're going to see what Kent says about that, if he can find the corner. If you're new to Facebook Live, just go to the bottom right-hand corner where there's a little question, a little box where you can fill in your comment on anything that you want. Ian, I had a funny dove story. I had a very tiny, shallow bird bath, because if you put in a really deep bird bath, the small insects get drowned in there, and you don't want your bees drowning, you don't want your butterflies drowning. So I put in a very shallow bird bath. It just has a little skim of water, because birds and butterflies and all animals like water. And I put that in, and one day I had a full-size dove coming and trying to bath in my little shallow bird bath. So I know that the doves do love to stay in the water, so I think that's really great. Okay, so if we don't have any other questions, I'm going to go right to my other bouquet here, which is something else I picked. I know this drives people crazy that I'm still picking vegetables. I am on Vancouver Island, and it makes a bit of a difference. But even in the city, and unfortunately it's a bit dark, you can't quite see this. This is Redbor Kale. Redbor Kale is very curly. It's got this, bring it a bit closer. Redbor Kale has that really tight curl. It's a really ornamental kale, and it's fabulous when you chop it up, put it in salads. And this is the broccoli that I've grown to love, and I've also found out the dog Corley loves it. I just found that out today because I was cutting off some pieces. I usually give her carrots, but apparently carrots are quite sweet. So this broccoli is called Happy Rich Broccoli. I really like that one. It'll come really late. We all know that the kale will stay in your garden. Even if it's snowing, you'll still get kale until -8, -10. So it'll stay for quite a while. And even when it's frozen tight, you can still just crumble it up and put it into freezer bags. So it's something that you're going to want to try. So that's the Redbor Kale and the Happy Rich Broccoli. Where's my seed package for that Happy Rich Broccoli? Of course, I got it out so that I could show everyone. And now I am missing that seed package. That's okay. We'll get back to your questions and see what you guys are up to. There it is. Okay, my Happy Rich mini broccoli. So Happy Hybrid Mini Broccoli Happy Rich F1. So that's the broccoli. Whoops, let me face that to you so that you can see it. That's the broccoli that's absolutely beautiful in my garden right now. That is small little heads. It's not the big-headed broccoli. It's all the little side sprouts, and it's a little bit bigger than the Italian sprouting broccoli. So I really quite like that one. Anyway, so that is the broccoli and the kale that I've got this week, and I'm really actually am pretty excited about that. I've got some other things that I like too, but I've been reading other questions, and I've seen that there's quite a bit of question about compost. Compost is a problem because compost, if you buy it, it's often been in those plastic bags for quite a while, and when it's been in the plastic bags, it actually starts to get kind of anaerobic. If it's wet in the plastic bags and you open it up and it smells bad, that's not a good thing. So what you're looking for is compost. If you buy it, you really want to buy it in bulk. So I've seen some people asking questions about that. They want to know more about compost. They want to know how to get good compost. Of course, the best compost are the worm castings or the compost that you make yourself that incorporate the worms into the system. So if you're thinking about starting your own compost pile, that's something that's really fun and something that I'd be happy to help you more with. But if you are thinking about buying compost, make sure to buy it in bulk. It's getting late in the season. Some people are still top dressing their garden beds with compost, and that's okay, but you can't just leave it laying on top. There's too much of a differential. It's a physics principle. I'm not sure what that physics principle is, but you can't have a change in structure from one to another. So you have to just sort of lightly fluff it in a little bit and get it incorporated into that. So bark mulch was the other surprise that I had yesterday. If you haven't followed The Informed Gardener, that's Linda Chalker Scott. She is based out of Seattle. She teaches gardeners and horticulturists all kinds of things, and she does it all based on science. So her and I had a discussion over supper last night because we were both speakers at the conference yesterday, and the discussion we had was around how deep you put your bark mulch. I know a lot of people on the prairies are talking about this now. They're starting to get snow. I saw in the Cranbrook, and hey, you guys, snow on the ground. I saw that. Janine posted something earlier. And if you've got snow on the ground, that means your soil is starting to freeze. I hesitate to put too much bark mulch on too soon if you haven't used it at all anymore, or if you haven't been using it at all. I hate to put it on too soon because you could just create a perfect environment for mice, rats, voles, moles, all of those things. So instead, I would say that it's a really good idea to wait till your soil starts to freeze if you've never used wood mulch. Now, I want to just clarify there because I think I said bark mulch, but actually the best thing to use is wood mulch. That's those mixed pieces of wood that are all shredded, so they're kind of different sizes, but shredded fairly fine, not the really tiny pieces, but fairly fine. And then when you put them on the ground, they will form up. It'll be really nice for your garden, and it'll also help moisture to drain in. So what happened last night when I was talking to Linda Chalker Scott? She's a research scientist, and she has been doing a project about this. And what I have read in the Journal of the International Society of Arboriculture, which are the professional tree people, and you would think we could trust them, but she said she's just redone the study. I have been telling people for years, put 10 centimeters, that's 4 inches. I've been telling that for years to put that much bulk and to keep the wood mulch away from the base of the tree, because if you put it right up to the edge of the tree, it can actually cause problems. But now, just last night, fast breaking news, Linda Chalker Scott told me that the latest study that they've just done shows that you can actually put 18 inches of bark mulch. Can you picture 18 inches of bark mulch? And not just bark, of course. I keep saying bark, but I mean to say wood mulch. So these are when you get an arborist in and he's chipping wood for you, that wood then gets shredded all together. So you get the bark together, you get the berries, you get leaves, you get it all sort of mixed up in one thing. If you own your own bark chipper, wood chipper, that's an even better thing. But if you have to get it from a nursery or a specialist, a tree specialist, then you're usually going to get a mixed mulch. That mixed mulch can now be put down at layers up to 18 inches. I found that shocking. The other shocking thing that Linda said to me is that you don't have to worry about keeping it away from the bark of the trunk, because we used to worry. The study that you just completed, they actually took a knife and cut the bark of the trees, and then they piled the bark mulch up around the trunk of the tree. And this is brand new information. I haven't read this. That then helped the tree heal. I think just last week we had from Janine a question about, where is Janine today? All of our normal people are usually here. We're getting more questions. Oh my gosh, we are getting questions, and I'm not actually following along. Anyway, the newest information from Linda Chalker Scott is that you can put your bark up to 18 inches deep. Sorry about that. There's Kent. He's answered the best wild bird seed presently is the black oil sunflower kernel. And Kent, I'm wondering if you like that. I know I've seen it in the packages at the PV Mart, for instance, and sometimes you're selling it shells, and sometimes you're selling it in actually with the shells off. So the shells on, the shells off. What do the birds like? He was saying he thought the birds, when I had a chat with him about that, his birds push out the seed that's got the shells on it, and they go right for the others. So we'll see what you guys say. Oh, Natalie likes my, I think she likes my kale. I don't know. I wasn't getting back to the questions. Whoops. Okay, Natalie has a big catalog this week, planning for a big greenhouse in a year or two. Last week when we were talking, Natalie and I mentioned to her that I actually have a BC greenhouse, and so she ordered the catalog, this very catalog, I guess, and it has all kinds of pictures in it and growing ideas. So that is really fun, Natalie. I hope you get that. I know you said you're growing in Souk, and Souk is the warmest part of Canada, but it's also cold. So it's right off the water. Souk is just west, if people don't know, of Vancouver or of Victoria. And so it's on the more exposed side. and so you get lots of wind and lots of cold, but it never gets as cold as it gets everywhere else in Canada. So Suk has that moderating comment. Okay. Back to Kent, he talked about the black oil sunflower kernel has a shell removed and a much higher oil content than the striped sunflower kernel. That's just really good information. If you are, that's just so good to know, because if you are actually out and about buying bird seed this fall, it's good to know that the birds actually prefer the black seeded to the striped seeds. I'm really excited about that. I think that all gardeners need all the help we can get, and if we're helping wildlife will help us. Okay, I saw the beautiful my catalog this week. Oh, other questions for Vancouver Island, black oil kernel works better than smaller pieces of kernel as the whole kernels. That is so interesting, Kent. Liz has joined, and Margot Baldwin. Hi, Donna. Oh, Margot. You've had such cold weather there. I imagine you're just completely shut down for the whole season now. Because you're living in Carbon, Alberta, so I imagine you're completely shut down. Tell us, Margot, are you feeding the birds as well? And if you are, what do you feed the birds at this time of year? Margot says, since we couldn't collect enough rainwater this summer, we had to water with our well water more than we would have liked. Our well water is high in sodium. We're wondering if it is ever a good idea to add gypsum granules. We've read that it removes sodium from the soil as well as breaks up the clay soil, which we have. You know what, Margot? You're right about gypsum. It is recommended to be used to break up clay soil. But once you start to get salt in your water, that starts to change the situation. Salt on your beds can, well, it's a funny word, flocculate. It can flocculate your soil. And when you flocculate your soil, it ends up not allowing moisture in properly. So I know that Linda Chalker Scott would have something to say about that, because she mentioned that yesterday when she was speaking, that gypsum is overrated. So I'm going to put that on, and I'm going to do it right after we hang up. The Informed Gardener. Remember, Linda is a researched scientist, theinformedgardener.com. So she is not going to give you sort of the garden perspective, but she has done a study on gypsum. I do believe that it's good, but she has her own opinion on that. So I'm going to say to see more about gypsum. She's got some pretty good opinions. People that don't know what gypsum is, it's a mixture of calcium and sulfur. So it's calcium sulfate, and calcium sulfate is really good on the prairies, and that's where Margot's gardening, because she has a land close to, just kind of northeast of Calgary in Carbon, and she's been following along with us. So there you go. I put Linda Chalker Scott's. Oops. Oh, I just switched over, and I'm following her webpage now instead of you guys. Yikes. This Facebook Live is always so exciting, because I'm sitting here and I'm trying to type in answers, and I'm also trying to see what's happening, and what ends up happening sometimes is I get lost. So back to Kent. He's excited about that. And Liz has joined us. Thank you, Liz. Margot is going to check out Linda Chalker Scott's website about gypsum, but I do believe on the prairies where you are, Margot, that you're going to be smart to use a bit of gypsum, and it does. Actually, it is really good. Okay, so I would do that gypsum. More questions from Kent. He says, with kernel, you don't get the buildup of shells under the feeder. So we're back to birds with Kent and Ian. They've been having a side discussion on that. And so it says here, you don't get the kernels, which can kill off the grass and force people to reseed the grass every spring. Also attracts rodents. So that's good. Margot says, yes, we feed canola seed in our bird feeders. I wonder how that works out. How does that work out? Kent, have you ever seen people using canola in their bird feeders. It's so fun to have Kent here today. Kent is actually Sun Country Farms. So Kent is the owner of that, and he is actually growing birdseed, which is being distributed. So that's exciting to have you here today for that. So we've got Margot feeding canola, and I don't know anything about canola other than I know that once they've pressed the canola seed, they do feed it to chickens and it becomes chicken feed. So I think it's a really palatable food. I think it's something that birds are really going to like, but I don't know if it's something that's recommended by professionals like Kent, who does pretty much make a living out of birdseed. Okay, people, lawns and gardens always look pristine when using black oil sunflower seed. Well, that's reason just right there. Kent's saying that if you use the black oil, you're going to have a better, more pristine. Not that gardeners, we're not so worried about pristine. Kent, if you were to see my garden today, you'd say, what's going on? But I will show you something from my garden today. And even if you're gardening on the prairies, and I saw some pictures on the gardeners of Cranbrook, they've got some asters as well. So I just went out and picked this aster. It's so woody, it's so heavy and so woody. This is one that's got a really long name, so I wrote it down so I wouldn't say it incorrectly. No, I wrote it down, not on this piece of paper. Aster oblongifolium radon. So this is the radon aster, and I planted it as a tiny little seedling last year, and this year it's 4 feet high and 4 feet wide. And the good thing about fall asters is they can take so much cold weather. So sometimes on the prairies, it's the only thing blooming into November. So I really, really, really encourage people to, if they haven't done asters before, and if you're trying to feed the birds naturally and the bees, because if you do get a warm day, even on the prairies and out here, you do get these days that are warm, and then the asters carry on. So they can take a lot of frost. So this one again is Aster oblongifolium radon. So if you haven't grown asters and you're thinking of that, put that on your little list in your journal, of course, for next year, so that you've got something that you can be, looking forward to, because asters are always great. On the prairies, one of the ones I just loved was the Professor Kempenberg. That was a really good one. Anyway, that's really great. Oh, there's Kent back on canola meal, which is left over from crushing process of canola seeds, does not attract wild birds. We've tried it. Wait a minute. Margot is feeding her birds in carbon with canola, but Kent has tried it and he hasn't found it to work. So what have you found? If you found that canola has worked in your situation, it would be really interesting to see. We seem to have a little discussion going on there right now between Margot and Kent, because Kent says it doesn't work. Margot said that's what they feed their birds. So let's see what happens there. Margot says she's also heard that the effect of gypsum is short-lived. So when should it be added? Well, you know what, with your gypsum, honestly, I would do that in the spring, because you don't want to, once the first snow is melted, that's probably when I would do it. In fact, I think it's going to need some working in. It's calcium. The calcium won't find its own way down to the plants. I've kind of gone away from rototilling, but put it in before you plant, because then just the action of planting will help it to become part of the soil. Now, I do not know. Oh, Ian is replying to Kent, and he has not done this. So Ian is looking for some help still on his bird seeds. Ian's very keen on birds. If you don't know Ian, he's down sometimes helping me directly. He's the genius behind all of the videos, the Little Jobs of the Garden, which you can now find on YouTube. So if you haven't been over to YouTube and search for Donna Balzer, you'll find some of those Little Jobs in the Garden. So search YouTube, Little Jobs in the Garden, and you'll find that. And that's very fun. Ian is my man that does all of those fabulous videos, and people really like them. So we had them on Facebook, and we've just started to move them over to YouTube, because it's too far to go back on Facebook. We've had them on all summer. Okay, Ian again, any suggestions about how to keep the seed dry, though, our wet winter, or the birds care if the seed is wet dry? Well, Ian's having his own conversation with Kent, so we're going to let them look at that, and we're going to talk about back to Linda Dr. Scott, because it was really fun for me. If you're a master gardener, she is the lady in Washington that started the Master Gardener program, so she is well spoken and well researched, and is constantly on the circuit speaking to other master gardeners. And her website is The Informed Gardener, as I said above. And she's just finished some new research about bark mulch and how much to put down. And as I was saying, I used to help people just put a bit, and she's saying really put a lot more. But she's against cardboard. For years now, I've told people put cardboard down on top of the lawn and the bark mulch on top of that, and that will kill the lawn so that you can then start with planting next spring. Linda does not like cardboard, so we're not going to use cardboard anymore. If you're thinking about redoing your lawn, better cut it extremely short and use more bark mulch. And Linda suggests 18 inches. So that's a ton of bark mulch. You can actually get that mulch from, you could buy mulch, but you'd go broke. The best source of wood mulch, I keep saying it wrong, wood mulch, the best source of that is from an arborist. So if you have an arborist that already works for you and he has a chipper, ask him if he can drop off a load. Some areas that's still possible. I know I just got a big load last week. I am building up a new area with some new soil, but other people have been unlucky getting bark mulch because everybody's hearing about it, and once your neighbors hear about it, you're not going to be able to get it. Okay. Oh, I heard another funny term this weekend. It was called PCS. We had a very funny speaker about creating an alpine garden in little ridges. So it's an alpine trough, basically. And I've done that myself in Calgary. I actually have a little rock garden in Calgary, but it was fun to hear. And we found out that there's a term called PCS, and that was something I hadn't heard about. And it's called plant collector syndrome. So if any of you suffer from PCS, plant collector syndrome, then you would love to have an alpine garden because the plants are so tiny that you can put so many more. One big aster like this, which spreads 4 feet in 1 year, not going to be good for your garden if you want to be out buying more plants. So if you've got PCS and want to buy more plants, you can go there. I also want to mention to people that Russell Nurseries has just taken on the journal. So you can buy the journal directly from me, but just this week, Russell Nurseries, which is down by Victoria. So if you're in Victoria, the best place to go is Russell Nurseries. It's also a fantastic nursery. They've got lots of really interesting plants. So if you're looking for the journal and you don't want to get it shipped to you because you want it right away, check out Russell Nurseries. They have a little supply on hand, and they'll probably be thrilled to sell one to you because it's not too late. What I suggest people to do in their journal, especially in this off season when you don't have a lot of things that you're planting or harvesting or picking, is I suggest that you write down the birds that you're seeing. I think that could be really fun. Anyway, Russell Nurseries, which is on Wayne Road, just north of Sydney, has just now carrying the book, and they just contacted me and we made sure they've got the book, so I'm really excited about that. I don't know if we have any other questions. We don't have a lot of people online today. I'll go back and see if I've missed anything, but I think I've got think of everybody that's asked a question. Kent is really knowledgeable about birds. So he's saying that sparrows prefer corn, wheat, millet, and other types of grains. So maybe Margot, maybe you're, I'm just going to include that. Maybe Margot is attracting sparrows. And I don't know, ideally, what would you like to attract, Ken? What's your favorite bird this time of year? What do you like to watch? What do you like to see coming in? What do you expect to attract? I know that goldfinches, for instance, are really attracted to seed, especially the coil seed, but I wonder if they've already migrated. They've already started moving south. So what are you, maybe Margot is attracting sparrows, but I wonder what Kent thinks that we can also attract with black seeds at this time of year. I know it's a major time of year for the migration, and I know that there are a lot of birds moving south. I actually, just in my own garden here, heard a huge sort of overhead, lots of birds just the other night, so they're really, really moving through. Okay, any other new questions? I don't see. Darlene is with us. Thanks, Darlene. Remember, there's a little bit of a gap, so sometimes you guys come on and then I see you later and I think, oh, darn, I didn't say hi. But I'm happy to see you, Darlene, and I'm wondering if you are having a migration. Darlene's from Cranbrook, which is kind of in between Alberta and BC. It's in BC, but it's right on the edge. And that is a place that you are already getting snow on the ground, and I'm wondering if you are still seeing the birds migrate through, or because you're in the mountains, maybe your migration's already finished. And if it's not, Darlene, what are you feeding your birds? I think that would be a really interesting topic for today. It also says to make sure that the hopper feeders have mesh bottoms to allow the rainwater to drain out. There's so much to know about feeding birds, isn't there? Kent's promised to send me a special feeder so that, because I've argued this point with him, I'm telling him, Kent, we can just plant a lot of things that have seeds. Things like sunflowers, if you plant them in your garden, they'll also have seeds. On the other hand, if you didn't know this, Kent, maybe Kent doesn't even know this. If you didn't know this, sunflowers can be allelopathic to other plants. So a lot of gardeners have told me they are trying not to let sunflowers grow in their gardens. And I used to always, especially on my parents' farm, we would plant sunflowers, but apparently that is becoming out of style because the sunflowers can be allelopathic to other things in your vegetable garden. And that allelopathic just means kind of toxic. Oh, and that reminds me of something else. I don't think we have anyone here visiting or listening in from Ontario, but it's been a huge buzz thing happening that all the Ontario gardeners complain about. I'm thinking about Stephen Biggs, my co-author. He was complaining about walnut trees and how they leach out tannin. And it turns out, Linda Chalker-Scott says, according to her research, there isn't actually a tannin that will kill when your plants are planted in the soil underneath. So it's only when they're in pots or in the laboratory when they did the laboratory tests. So I find that really interesting. I don't know, allelopathic, I don't know how I got off on that tangent. There's no birds at Margot's feeder right now, so she doesn't know. So she doesn't know what kinds are coming, but keep track, Margot, and let us know in the future. I'd like to know what you're attracting with your canola. Kent says you can't. He thinks that canola meal does not work for attracting birds as the oil from the seed is removed. So I think you're right, Kent. I think actually Margot's a farmer, so she's actually using canola, like fresh canola. So she's not using the meal. What we use canola meal for is fertilizing. So I think you're right. Canola meal makes a great fertilizer, but not canola meal. I'm trying to type that now. Makes a great fertilizer. And what it does is it's got nitrogen in it, so it makes a great fertilizer for gardeners, but maybe, and it's also a chicken feed. It's very hard to type and to respond at the same time. Canola meal makes a great fertilizer for gardeners. And it's actually what we call slow food for gardeners because it's not ready right away. The nitrogen is slowly released, and also a chicken feed, but maybe not so great for wild birds. That's good to know. It's been really fascinating having Kent drop by today and give us all these ideas about birds and bird feed and bird feeders, and see what else is going on. So it's past 3:30. We usually try to go just for half an hour, but I'll just see if there's any other questions, and doesn't look like it. Oh, Mark says she's got red poles, pine siskins, and goldfinches. That's really cool. I had heard that goldfinches only were attracted to the black Niger seed. So lots of good ideas there. I think that's really cool. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys go and let you know that this is, as you already know, the last week of October. So if you've got any seeds left in your garden, we started with Wayne, whose question was about pea seeds. If you've still got any peas hang on, let them dry, start to clean them out. If you've got asters, let them go, let them bloom. If you've got some late plants like Redbor Kale, or I'm showing you my Goodman cauliflower, which I grew in my greenhouse. Any of these things make it so much fun. I'm so happy that you joined me this week. And keep gardening, keep growing. Even if it starts to become hard outdoors, it's still really, really fun to think about and dream about the next season. So thanks for joining me today. Watch for comments. I'll go in and answer comments even after we're offline, and make sure that if you've got any extra comments, you add them as well. Thank you so much. Bye for now.